After a season that looked firmly under the control of McLaren's rising superstar Oscar Piastri and his teammate Lando Norris, the balance of power in Formula One has shifted dramatically. For months, it seemed inevitable that McLaren would finally end Red Bull's dominance at the top of the sport, but the Azerbaijan Grand Prix in Baku flipped that story on its head. Piastri crashed out in a costly mistake. Norris could only salvage a seventh-place finish, and Max Verstappen reminded everyone why he is a three-time world champion by delivering a flawless drive to victory. With that result, Verstappen slashed the championship gap down to just 69 points, and suddenly what was once considered impossible is being quietly discussed inside McLaren's garage. The reality is clear: Verstappen is back. And if Verstappen truly is back, then McLaren now face a painful question. Can they still afford to let Piastri and Norris fight freely for supremacy, or must they choose one driver to lead the title charge before it's too late? The drama intensified when Piastri himself admitted that McLaren held an urgent meeting after Baku to discuss the growing Verstappen threat. That revelation alone has fueled speculation that the team is rethinking its entire strategy. This battle is no longer just about pace on the track. It has become a fight of psychology, strategy, and raw survival. The fallout from Baku has sent shockwaves through the Formula One paddock. For most of the year, the storyline was simple. McLaren had the fastest car, and their two young drivers were locked in a personal battle for supremacy. Their Constructors' Championship seemed almost guaranteed. Red Bull, meanwhile, looked vulnerable for the first time in years, their aura of dominance cracking after a sluggish start. But in the blink of an eye, that narrative has been destroyed. Verstappen, written off by many as a fading force this season, has launched one of the most stunning comebacks in modern Formula One. Back-to-back wins in Monza and Baku have transformed his campaign. At Monza, Verstappen dominated with a pole position and a clinical race win that suggested a turning point. At Baku, he silenced all doubts by controlling the race with supreme authority while McLaren self-destructed. With 7 races remaining and a 69-point deficit, Verstappen's title bid is far from dead. In Formula One, momentum is everything, and right now Verstappen has it while McLaren appear to be losing their grip. The real fear inside McLaren is not just the shrinking points gap, but the psychological battle that is unfolding. Team principal Andrea Stella openly admitted after Baku that Verstappen and Red Bull are now the biggest threats to their championship ambitions. That public admission was a telling moment, a signal that McLaren no longer view themselves as untouchable. Stella also noted that Red Bull have found speed both in the corners and on the straights, and with Verstappen at the wheel, that makes them a very dangerous opponent. The problem facing McLaren now goes far beyond the engineering side of the sport. It has evolved into a political and strategic dilemma. Piastri, the calm and clinical rookie-turned-leader, has been consistent all year, making very few mistakes and showing the composure of a future world champion. Norris, on the other hand, has been spectacular in flashes, proving he can win races and fight on equal terms, but sometimes his aggression has cost him. Until Baku, McLaren believed they could let both drivers fight freely while still keeping control of the title race. But in Formula One, fairness often fades when championships are at stake. Former Haas boss Günther Steiner has been among the loudest voices urging McLaren to make the tough call now. His view is blunt: they must back one driver, and that driver should be Piastri. Steiner argues that both cannot win, and if McLaren keep letting them battle each other, they risk losing everything to Verstappen. His message is ruthless but pragmatic. Sometimes in Formula One, you must sacrifice fairness to secure victory. The problem is that Norris is no ordinary teammate. He is the face of McLaren's resurgence, the driver the team have invested in for the long term, and a fan favorite whose popularity is central to the team's brand. Demoting him to a supporting role would create headlines around the world and could damage his relationship with the team beyond repair. But Steiner insists that failing to act would be far worse, warning McLaren that if they lose the championship because they refuse to prioritize one driver, history will judge them harshly. Verstappen's comeback, after all, is no fantasy. He has built his reputation on capitalizing when rivals falter. In 2021, he triumphed over Lewis Hamilton in one of the most intense title battles in history. In 2023, he and Red Bull were untouchable, rewriting the record books with one of the most dominant seasons ever. And now in 2025, he finds himself in a new role, the hunter rather than the hunted. That makes him more dangerous than ever, because with less pressure and lower expectations, he can attack freely while McLaren play defensively. Even Red Bull's leadership is beginning to sense an opportunity. Helmut Marko has hinted that the upcoming Singapore Grand Prix will be the ultimate test. A circuit where Red Bull have traditionally struggled, Singapore could be the place where Verstappen proves his resurgence is no fluke. Marko said clearly that if Red Bull are competitive in Singapore, then Verstappen's title hopes could suddenly become very real. For McLaren, that would be a nightmare. Singapore is now shaping up as a crucial crossroads in this championship battle. The Marina Bay circuit, with its demanding layout and punishing conditions, has historically been difficult for Red Bull. Even during their record-breaking 2024 campaign, it was the race that broke their winning streak. If McLaren can dominate in Singapore, they could silence their critics and reassert control of the championship. But if Verstappen wins, the panic inside McLaren will be impossible to contain. Beyond the external battle with Red Bull, McLaren also face a brewing internal storm. At Monza, they ordered Piastri to move aside for Norris after a pit stop mix-up, an instruction that suggested equality is already under strain. If they keep juggling fairness while Verstappen keeps closing the gap, they could lose both championships in the chaos. Every decision now carries enormous weight. Every mistake could be fatal. Piastri has already admitted that McLaren are pushing harder than ever behind the scenes to correct errors, and he has subtly suggested that the team will naturally prioritize him as the current championship leader. That statement reveals an important shift. Piastri himself now expects Norris to play second fiddle if necessary. Meanwhile, Norris is still very much in contention, just 25 points behind Piastri after Baku. Will he accept being relegated to a support role, or will he resist, creating tension inside the team at the very moment Verstappen is surging forward? The Norris factor could prove decisive not only in determining this year's title, but also in shaping the long-term harmony within McLaren. At the core of this saga lies one harsh truth. Formula One rewards decisiveness, and teams that hesitate are punished. Red Bull know this all too well. Ferrari have learned it through bitter failure, and now McLaren must decide if they are ruthless enough to do what it takes. The Constructors' Championship may still be leaning heavily in their favor, but the driver's title, the ultimate prize, is suddenly wide open. So the question now is simple but brutal. Should McLaren pull the trigger and throw their full support behind Piastri as the #1 driver? Or should they continue letting Norris and Piastri fight it out, even if it risks letting Verstappen steal the crown? It is a choice that could define not just this season, but the future of the team. Verstappen's comeback is real. McLaren are under pressure, and the championship is heading toward one of the most unpredictable climaxes in years. Share your thoughts in the comments. Should McLaren be ruthless or stay loyal to their drivers? And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to hit like and subscribe for all the latest twists in this dramatic Formula One season.